So while the jury deliberates, Trump is melting down. He was unstable to begin with, but now he's going all caps and just a covfefe away from a complete collapse.
Kangaroo court, a corrupt and conflicted judge, reliance on counsel, advice of counsel not allowed by Merchan. First, his rulings on a case that should, according to all legal scholars and experts, never have been brought, have made this a Biden-push witch hunt. There was no crime, except for the bomb that got caught stealing from me, and God we trust.
Yeah, Donnie, which God would that be? This all from a guy who's never allowed to run a charity in New York again because he stole from a children's cancer fund. Or the guy who pals around with pedophiles like Jeffrey Epstein.
He likes beautiful women, and many of them are on the younger side.
Or the one who grabs women by the, well, that's old news. The latest brain fart from Tiny Fingers. Is if he's elected, he will deport millions of Americans. He'll use the military to attack protesters and bomb China and start World War III. He really said that.
It's crazy!
But first he has to avoid jail, and that won't be easy. His lawyer's case was weak, as seen by the closing arguments. The prosecution took 5 hours. Trump's guy, 45 minutes. And Trump's defense attorney got lambasted by the judge. I love that word, lambasted. Anyway, for asking the jury to not send Trump to jail when it's not their call. The judge sentences the defendant.
We obviously don't have audio of this trial, but hearing Todd Blanche, who had a scattershot defense, a scattershot closing arguments, he does not vocally command the room. He does not speak with great authority.
He looks like a tough guy, but he talks like Jared.
He
talks like Jared Kushner.
And it was notable that when he finally finished his argument, he sat down and he's sitting right next to Donald Trump, next to him, Rachel. Mm-hmm. And Trump is looking that way, and Blanche is looking this way, right? That's not the body language.
He sits down at the end of his summation,
and Trump is looking that way, and Blanche is looking this way. That is not the body language of someone who's necessarily happy with the job their lawyer has done. And remember that at the end of Blanche's closing argument, there was a lot of back and forth with Judge Merchan about Todd Blanche's, plea to the jury not to send Donald Trump to jail. That was something that was stricken from the record. There was a kind of a whole kerfuffle.
Of course, it only takes one jury to hang the verdict, and that could very well happen. But there's also a clear message resounding across the nation.
The country's going to burn.
And you saw it at the Libertarian Conference when Trump was eviscerated.
The Libertarian Party should nominate Trump for President of the United States. Whoa. That's nice. That's nice.
They're saying we're done with this guy. And the polls of registered voters have Biden ahead in every swing state but one, and he's even in Wisconsin. And ignore Rasmussen. They have Trump ahead in every poll since 2018, and they had Trump winning in 2020. Of course, Trump lies about everything, and he's done it since day one. But independents are shifting away from the Republican Party, as anyone should. And add to that, Trump and his family's racist remarks.
And I cannot wait for the day that we win. We will. We're right. The entire country knows this is nonsense. We will. We're right.
And Trump's racist lies.
But people are coming from the Congo. Last night, we had 20 people come. Welcome to our country from the Congo. Where do you live in the Congo? We live in prison. Oh, that's right. They released them from prison. I don't think they wanted to ask what they did, but they're coming in from Africa.
And you have millions of Americans saying, I'm tired of this shit.
You and I have been on together several times to fact check the claim about people emptying their insane asylums, countries, and sending them to the United States, which I know there's no basis for. Also, his claims wrongly that President Biden is the one driving this when, of course, he was indicted by a jury of his peers here, and it is the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, who brought this case.
Yeah, you barely need me anymore. You got these fact checks down. Everything you said is correct. He also referred to fake elections in this country, a vaguer than usual reference to his false claims, his lies that the 2020 election was rigged. We have entirely legitimate elections in this country, including the 2020 election he lost. He also used this figure. He said 15, 16, 17 million people being let in over the border under Joe Biden. Those are wildly exaggerated figures. We are under 10 million so-called encounters. That includes many millions who were sent back under Title 42 after they were encountered. So not all of them were let in.
Well, and that's why whenever he claimed, he said the judge is so conflicted that he, quote, can't breathe, was his quote. I mean, that has been something that Trump has long claimed during this trial. I should note, as someone who's been in that jury room or in that courtroom watching this, the judge often strives at great lengths to be fair to both sides here, both the prosecution and the defense. Yeah. And also, this has gone through a process where he was asked if he was too conflicted to preside over this, and he was told no.
Yeah, and Caitlin, there's one more thing I should mention. He said that that the Trump side, his defense, had a leading election expert, and the judge just refused to allow him to testify. That is not what happened. What happened was the judge, as is common, limited the scope of the possible testimony that this expert could have offered, and then Trump's defense said, okay, we're just not going to call him at all.
Trump is having a nervous breakdown and tweeted this today.
I don't know what the charges are in this rigged case. I'm entitled to specificity, just like anyone else. There is no crime.
Not knowing the charges doesn't protect you from the crime any more than not understanding gravity protects you from the fall. Here's the thought experiment. Imagine if Trump was president right now. There won't be any John Kellys or General Millies or Secretary Espers or Sally Yates or Rex Tillersons. No, his inner circle will be Stephen Miller, Matt Gaetz, Dairy Queen, and Mike Flynn. Sleep tight.
What the hell did you just say?
Trump is currently being protected by Judge Cannon in Florida, who won't allow the documents case to move forward, and by the Mopes in the Supreme Court, led by insurrectionist groupies Alito and January 6 participant Ginny Thomas. Trump is also being protected by DeSantis, who has said if Trump is convicted, Trump can come to Florida and he won't extradite him. That's some third world shat right there. You know what other countries don't extradite to the U.S.? Venezuela and the Saudis. Bottom line is everything points to a guilty verdict, and former Trump attorney Ty Cobb agrees.
How quickly will there be a verdict?
So I think we'll have a verdict, Friday afternoon at the latest. It could be Monday, but I think this case, could easily be resolved by the weekend. And Fridays are usually a trustworthy day to estimate a verdict return because jurors typically don't want to spend the weekend on this kind of stuff, and they don't really want to come back the next week. And they'll have had 3 full days to consider it. I think that's likely the day.
All right. So you think by Friday. You also think the jury will find Trump guilty. How come?
I do. I think. I think it's a combination of things, but primarily it's because the jury instructions almost require it.
Regardless of the verdict, polls show that Americans who supported Trump are having second thoughts. I mean, assuming Trump supporters have first thoughts to begin with.
Do you feel like Donald Trump is in some way God's chosen one as a candidate?
I do.
There are 3 possibilities here. The first is a hung jury, which means that all it takes is one juror to vote not guilty, and New York will probably not retry the case. The second, a not guilty verdict, has almost 0 chance of occurring as the evidence pointing to a felony is overwhelming. And of course, the third possibility is a conviction, which will result in either a house arrest or tiny fingers going inside. And that's where it gets interesting.
The country's going to burn.
While we await Trump's immunity plea before the not-so-Supreme Court, it would not apply to this case anyway. And even if this highly partisan court rules that Trump has some kind of immunity,
orders someone to assassinate him, is that within his official acts that for which he can get immunity?
It would depend on the hypothetical, but we can see that could well be an official act.
Trump's mind is slipping and he is hurtling toward dementia, never to be heard from again.
It was reported that an illegal
So that begs the question, which Trump ass kisser is the next Kovefe?
I want to be a dictator.
This isn't their Republican Party anymore.
Am I wrong? Damn right.
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I'm Chip Franklin.